The crash landing. The deafening blare of alarms jolted Captain Sarah Chen awake. Red warning lights flashed across the cramped cockpit of her one-person scout ship as it hurtled through an unknown planet's atmosphere. Sarah's hands flew across the controls, desperately trying to stabilize the craft. Come on, she muttered through gritted teeth. The ship shuddered violently, threatening to tear apart at any moment. Through the viewport, Sarah caught glimpses of a purple-tinged sky and jagged mountain peaks rushing up to meet her. With a bone-jarring impact, the scout ship slammed into the alien landscape. Sarah's head whipped forward, her safety harness the only thing keeping her from being flung through the cracked viewport. As the craft skidded to a halt, Sarah's world faded to black. When Sarah regained consciousness, the first thing she noticed was the acrid smell of smoke. She blinked, her vision swimming as she took in the wreckage of her cockpit. Most systems were offline, sparks occasionally shooting from damaged panels. Sarah unclipped her harness with trembling hands and ran a quick self-assessment. Nothing felt broken, though her entire body ached fiercely. She'd be one massive bruise tomorrow, assuming she survived that long. Grabbing her emergency kit, Sarah popped the hatch and climbed out of the downed scout ship. She surveyed her surroundings, jaw-dropping in awe despite her dire situation. Towering purple-hued trees stretched toward an alien sky swirling with bands of pink and orange. The air was thick and humid, filled with the buzz and chirp of unseen creatures. In the distance, craggy mountains pierced the clouds, their peaks glowing with an eerie bioluminescence. "Where the hell am I?" Sarah whispered. This definitely wasn't her intended destination. The last thing she remembered before the alarms was entering a routine wormhole jump. Something must have gone catastrophically wrong, spitting her out in this uncharted system. A rustling in the dense underbrush snapped Sarah back to her senses. She was exposed, injured, and alone on an alien world. She needed to find shelter and assess her options. Sarah grabbed what gear she could salvage from the wreck and set off toward a rocky outcropping in the distance. As she hiked, she tried her comm unit, hoping against hope to reach her ship or command. Nothing but static. The strange flora of this world both fascinated and unnerved her. Carnivorous-looking plants snapped at insects buzzing past. Vines seemed to writhe of their own accord. More than once, Sarah could have sworn she saw eyes peering at her from the shadows. As the alien sun began to set, casting long shadows across the landscape, Sarah finally reached the outcropping. She found a shallow cave and gratefully ducked inside, her muscles screaming in protest. Sarah took stock of her supplies as she set up a makeshift camp. She had enough rations for maybe a week if she stretched them, some basic medical supplies, a few tech gadgets that may or may not work in this environment, and her sidearm. Not much to work with, but it would have to do. As full darkness fell, the cave came alive with bioluminescent fungi, casting everything in an ethereal blue glow. The beauty of it almost made Sarah forget the gravity of her situation. Almost. She was light years from any human outpost, stranded on an unknown and potentially hostile world. Her only hope was to find a way to boost her distress beacon and pray someone picked up the signal before her supplies ran out. A bone-chilling screech echoed from somewhere in the alien night, making Sarah's hair stand on end. She clutched her blaster closer, suddenly very aware of how alone she truly was. As exhaustion finally overcame her, Sarah drifted into an uneasy sleep. Her dreams were a confused jumble of wormhole malfunctions, alien landscapes, and piercing golden eyes watching her from the shadows. She awoke with a start, momentarily disoriented by the glowing cave and foreign sounds filtering in from outside. Right. Crashed. Alien planet. Stranded. Sarah forced herself to focus, running through the survival protocols drilled into her during training. First priority, water. Her supplies wouldn't last long in this humid environment. Venturing out of the cave, Sarah was struck anew by the alien beauty of this world. In the light of day, she could see for miles across a landscape that seemed to pulse with life. Massive tree-like structures swayed gently, their leaves shimmering with an almost metallic quality. In the distance, a herd of six-legged creatures grazed on luminous purple grass. They looked almost like a cross between deer and giraffes, with long necks ending in wide, flat heads. Sarah shook her head in wonder. In all her years of space exploration, she'd never encountered a biosphere quite like this. If only she weren't fighting for survival, she'd be fascinated. A gurgling sound caught her attention, and Sarah grinned as she spotted a small stream not far from her cave. She approached cautiously, scanner out to check for contaminants or parasites. To her relief, the water seemed safe enough once run through her filtration system. As Sarah knelt by the stream to refill her canteen, the hairs on the back of her neck stood up. She was being watched. She could feel it. Slowly, Sarah turned, her hand inching toward her blaster. At first, she saw nothing but the gently swaying alien flora. Then, a flash of movement caught her eye. Something was moving through the underbrush with almost preternatural grace, barely disturbing the vegetation. Sarah caught glimpses of sleek, dark shapes, moving with coordinated precision. Her heart racing, Sarah backed slowly toward her cave. Whatever was out there, she didn't want to face it in the open. Just as she reached the mouth of the cave, a figure burst from the foliage with blinding speed. Sarah raised her blaster, but hesitated in shock at what she saw. Standing before her was a being unlike anything she'd ever encountered. It was vaguely humanoid, but taller and more lithe than any human. Its skin was a deep, shimmering purple, almost black in the shadows. But it was the eyes that truly captivated Sarah, solid gold, with no visible pupils, yet unmistakably intelligent. The alien cocked its head, regarding Sarah with what seemed like curiosity. It made no aggressive moves, but Sarah could see the coiled strength in its form. This was a predator, without a doubt. For a long moment, human and alien stared at each other in mutual fascination. Then, the spell was broken as more figures emerged from the underbrush. Sarah counted at least 5 of the strange beings, all regarding her with those unnerving golden eyes. Sarah's mind raced. First contact. This was what she'd dreamed of since joining the space program, but not like this. Not alone and unprepared on an alien world. One of the aliens, slightly taller than the rest, stepped forward. It made a series of clicks and whistles as Sarah assumed was language. When she didn't respond, it tried again, this time accompanied by graceful hand gestures. Sarah lowered her blaster slightly, sensing no immediate threat. She pointed to herself. "Sarah," she said clearly. "My name is Sarah." The lead alien tilted its head, then mimicked her gesture, pointing to itself and making a musical trilling sound. Was that its name? Before Sarah could attempt further communication, a distant roar shattered the moment. The aliens' heads snapped toward the sound, their bodies tensing. The leader made a sharp gesture, and the group melted back into the underbrush with astonishing speed. The lead alien paused, looking back at Sarah. It made a beckoning gesture, clearly wanting her to follow. Sarah hesitated. Every survival instinct screamed at her to stay put, to not trust these unknown beings. But something in those alien eyes compelled her. And whatever had made that roar sounded big, very big. Decision made, Sarah grabbed her pack and plunged into the alien forest after her strange new acquaintances. As she struggled to keep up with their swift, silent movement, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that her entire life was about to change. Little did she know just how right she was. The universe was about to get a whole lot bigger, and humanity's place in it would never be the same. The hive awakens. Sarah's lungs burned as she raced through the alien forest, struggling to keep pace with her mysterious purple-skinned guides. The distant roar that had sent them fleeing grew louder, accompanied by the sound of splintering trees and thunderous footfalls. "What in the cosmos is that?" Sarah gasped, ducking under a low-hanging bioluminescent vine. The lead alien, the one Sarah had mentally dubbed Golden Eyes, chittered urgently, gesturing for her to move faster. Sarah pushed herself harder, ignoring the protest of her already battered body. Suddenly, the forest opened up into a vast clearing. Sarah skidded to a halt, her jaw dropping at the sight before her. Rising from the purple grass was an enormous structure that defied description. It looked like a cross between a termite mound and a futuristic skyscraper, its surface covered in pulsating bioluminescent patterns. The hive, Sarah whispered in awe, instinctively knowing that's what this place was. Golden Eyes made a trilling sound that might have been agreement, then ushered Sarah towards an opening at the base of the structure. As they approached, Sarah saw hundreds of aliens, similar to her guides, swarming in and out of the hive, moving with purpose and precision. Just as they reached the entrance, the tree line behind them exploded. Sarah whirled, her hand flying to her blaster, then froze in terror. Emerging from the forest was a creature straight out of humanity's darkest nightmares. It stood easily 30 feet tall, its body a writhing mass of tentacles and chitinous plates. Multiple eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence as it fixed its gaze on the hive. "World Eater," Golden Eyes hissed in barely accented English, startling Sarah. Before she could process this new development, the alien grabbed her arm and pulled her into the hive. Inside, the structure was a maze of organic corridors and chambers, alive with activity. Aliens of various sizes and shades of purple rushed about, some carrying strange crystalline objects, others manning what looked like bio-organic control panels. Sarah's head spun, trying to take it all in. She was inside an alien hive, being led deeper into its heart by beings she'd just met, while some eldritch horror attacked outside. This was well beyond anything covered in her first contact protocols. Golden Eyes led Sarah to a large central chamber dominated by a pulsating crystalline structure. Other aliens that seemed to be in positions of authority gathered around, chittering urgently. "The World Eater has awakened," Golden Eyes said, addressing Sarah directly for the first time. "Our long-dormant enemy returns, threatening not just our world, but all worlds." Sarah blinked, struggling to process this information. You can speak my language." Golden Eyes nodded. "We are quick learners, and have been observing your transmissions for some time. We are the Zarquin, guardians of this sector of space, and you, Sarah of Earth, have arrived at a pivotal moment in galactic history." Before Sarah could respond, the entire hive shuddered. A deep, resonant tone echoed through the structure, causing the crystalline objects to vibrate in harmony. "The hive awakens," another Zarquin announced. "It has been millennia since we faced a World Eater. Our defenses may not hold." Sarah's mind raced. This was bigger than her, bigger than humanity's first official contact with alien life. An ancient threat was stirring, one that could potentially threaten Earth as well. "How can I help?" Sarah asked, surprising herself with her own boldness. Golden Eyes regarded her with those unnerving golden eyes. "You are but one human, untrained in our ways. What could you possibly offer?" Sarah straightened, feeling the weight of humanity's potential future on her shoulders. "I'm a survivor, I'm adaptable, and I've got nothing left to lose. Whatever this World Eater is, it's a threat to my people too. Let me fight alongside you." A murmur ran through the gathered Zarquin. Golden Eyes conferred briefly with the others before turning back to Sarah. "Very well, Sarah of Earth. You shall join our defense. But know this, the path ahead is fraught with danger. The World Eater is but one of many cosmic horrors stirring from ancient slumbers. The galaxy stands on the brink of chaos, and the actions of a few may determine the fate of trillions." Sarah nodded solemnly, her resolve hardening. "I'm ready. What's the plan?" As if in answer, the crystal structure in the center of the chamber pulsed brightly. Holographic images sprang to life, showing the World Eater's assault on the hive's outer defenses. "The hive is more than our home," Golden Eyes explained. "It is a living weapon designed to combat threats like the World Eater, but it requires a psychic link with a compatible mind to reach its full potential." Sarah's eyes widened as understanding dawned. And you think I might be compatible? Golden Eyes nodded. Your arrival here was no accident, Sarah. The cosmos has brought you to us for a reason. Will you join your mind with the hive and stand against the darkness that threatens to consume us all? Sarah took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would change not just her life, but potentially the course of galactic history. I'll do it, she said firmly. Whatever it takes to protect Earth and stop this threat. The gathered Zarquin trilled in what seemed like approval. Golden Eyes gestured for Sarah to approach the crystal structure. Place your hands upon the crystal and open your mind, Golden Eyes instructed. The hive will do the rest. Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. As her palms touched the cool, vibrating surface of the crystal, she felt a jolt of energy surge through her body. Her vision blurred, and suddenly she was aware of so much more. She could feel the entire hive as if it were an extension of her own body. She sensed the thousands of Zarquin moving throughout its chambers, their thoughts and emotions a complex tapestry in her mind. And beyond the hive, she felt the malevolent presence of the World Eater, its hunger an all-consuming void. Sarah gasped as knowledge flooded her consciousness. The history of the Zarquin, that ancient conflict with cosmic horrors like the World Eater, and the incredible capabilities of the hive itself all became clear to her in an instant. With this newfound understanding, Sarah knew what she had to do. She focused her will, and the hive responded. Organic weaponry sprouted from its surface, targeting the World Eater with pinpoint accuracy. Shields of shimmering energy enveloped the structure, deflecting the creature's attacks. Through her mental link, Sarah coordinated the Zarquin defenders, guiding them with a tactical precision that surprised even her. The battle raged for what felt like hours, the World Eater's assault growing more frenzied as it failed to breach the hive's defenses. Finally, with a concentrated blast of energy from the hive's core, channeled through Sarah's own consciousness, the World Eater fell. Its massive form crashed to the ground, shaking the entire forest. As the dust settled, Sarah severed her connection with the hive, stumbling backwards. Golden Eyes caught her, steadying her with a look of newfound respect. You have done the impossible, Sarah of Earth, Golden Eyes said. You have saved our world and proven yourself a true ally of the Zarquin. Sarah nodded weakly, exhausted, but filled with a sense of purpose she'd never known before. This is just the beginning, isn't it? She asked. Golden Eyes trilled solemnly. Indeed, the awakening of the World Eater heralds a new age of conflict. Ancient evils stir across the galaxy, and the Zarquin cannot stand against them alone. Sarah straightened, her resolve returning. Then it's time to contact Earth. Humanity needs to know what's out there, and we need to prepare. Together, we might just have a chance. As the Zarquin gathered around her, chittering excitedly, Sarah looked out over the alien landscape. Her life had changed forever, but so too had the destiny of humanity. The stars had once seemed silent and empty. Now Sarah knew they were teeming with both wonders and terrors beyond imagination. The battle for the future of the galaxy had only just begun, and humanity, with Sarah as its unexpected ambassador, would have a pivotal role to play in the cosmic drama about to unfold. The Celestial Nexus. Sarah stood at the helm of the Zarquin flagship, the Star Weaver, her eyes fixed on the swerving vortex of energy before them. The ship's organic hull hummed with anticipation, its consciousness brushing against Sarah's mind through the neural link she now shared with all Zarquin technology. The Celestial Nexus, Golden Eyes announced, their melodic voice tinged with awe. The crossroads of 1,000 realities, and our best hope for uniting the galaxy against the coming storm. Sarah nodded, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. In the months since her crash landing and the battle against the World Eater, she had become more than just an ambassador between humanity and the Zarquin. She was now a key player in a cosmic chess game, with the fate of multiple species hanging in the balance. Are we sure about this? Sarah asked, glancing at the alien she had come to consider a friend and mentor. Messing with the fabric of reality seems like a good way to make things worse, not better. Golden eyes trilled softly, a sound Sarah had come to recognize as laughter. Your caution is admirable, Sarah of Earth. But the celestial nexus is our only hope of gathering allies powerful enough to face the Void Harbingers. The mention of the Void Harbingers sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. The World Eater had been just the beginning, a scout for a far greater threat. The Harbingers were eldritch horrors from beyond the known universe, drawn to the light and life of their reality like moths to a flame, and they were hungry. Right then, Sarah said, squaring her shoulders, no pressure. We just have to convince representatives from 1,000 realities to join our crusade against cosmic horror. Should be a breeze. The bridge of the Starweaver erupted in trills and clicks of amusement. The Zarquin had quickly grown to appreciate Sarah's human sarcasm, even if they didn't always understand it. As they approached the swirling vortex, Sarah felt the ship's systems adapting, preparing for the mind-bending journey through the Nexus. She closed her eyes, focusing on the neural link, and felt the collective consciousness of the Zarquin crew surrounding her like a protective cocoon. Entering the Nexus in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to fold in on itself. Sarah's perception shattered into a kaleidoscope of realities. She saw versions of Earth where history had taken radically different turns, alien worlds beyond her wildest imagination, and dimensions that defied the very laws of physics she had once thought immutable. Through it all, the Zarquin consciousness anchored her, preventing her mind from being lost in the infinity of possibilities. After what felt like both an eternity and no time at all, the Starweaver emerged into a space unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. The Celestial Nexus was a massive structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Platforms of impossible geometry floated in a void filled with swirling cosmic energies. And on those platforms, gathered in a grand council chamber, were beings from across the multiverse. Sarah's eyes widened as she took in the assembled entities. There were humanoids of every conceivable variation, creatures of pure energy, gestalt consciousnesses inhabiting swarms of smaller bodies, and things her human mind couldn't even begin to categorize. "Welcome, travelers," a voice echoed in Sarah's mind, somehow understandable despite the impossibility of a common language among such diverse beings. "You stand in the Celestial Nexus, the crossroads of all realities. State your purpose." Sarah stepped forward, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon her. She took a deep breath, remembering all she had learned from the Zarquin about diplomacy and cosmic politics. "I am Sarah Chen of Earth, speaking on behalf of my people and our allies, the Zarquin," she began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "We come seeking aid against a threat that endangers not just our reality, but all realities. The Void Harbingers have awakened, and they hunger for the light of creation itself." A murmur rippled through the assembled beings. Sarah could sense fear, skepticism, and curiosity in equal measure. The Harbingers are a myth, one being scoffed, its form a constantly shifting mass of tentacles and eyes. A bogeyman story told to frighten young species. "I assure you, they are all too real," Sarah countered. "My world faced one of their scouts, a world eater, and barely survived, and that was just the beginning." She gestured, and a holographic display sprang to life, showing the battle against the world eater and the devastation it had wrought. The assembled beings watched in stunned silence. "But that's not all," Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. "We have evidence that the Harbingers are massing for a full-scale invasion, not just of our reality, but of all realities. They seek to devour the very essence of creation, leaving nothing but void in their wake." The chamber erupted in chaos as beings argued amongst themselves. Sarah stood firm, waiting for the commotion to die down. Finally, a being of pure, radiant energy floated forward. "You speak with conviction, Sarah of Earth," it said, its voice like chimes in Sarah's mind. "But what would you have us do? Our realities are vast and varied. How can we unite against such a threat?" Sarah smiled, feeling a surge of hope. That's why we've come to the Nexus. This place exists outside of normal space and time. It's the perfect staging ground for a united defense of all realities. We propose creating an interdimensional alliance, pooling our knowledge, technology, and unique abilities to face the Harbingers together. The radiant beings seem to consider this an ambitious plan. But how can we trust that this alliance would not become a threat itself, with the power to move between realities? A fair question, Sarah acknowledged. That's why we suggest creating a council, with representatives from all participating realities. No single group would have unilateral control. We would stand together as equals, or not at all. As Sarah spoke, she could feel the mood in the chamber shifting. The initial skepticism was giving way to cautious hope. She pressed on, outlining the Zarquin's plans for sharing technology, creating interdimensional communication networks, and establishing early warning systems for Harbinger incursions. Hours passed as Sarah answered questions, addressed concerns, and negotiated the framework for what would become known as the Multiversal Defense Accord. Through it all, she felt the support of the Zarquin flowing through their neural link, providing her with information and encouragement. Finally, as what passed for day in the timeless nexus began to fade, a consensus was reached. The assembled beings agreed to form the alliance, with the celestial nexus serving as its headquarters. As the council adjourned, beings from countless realities approached Sarah, offering thanks, pledging support, or simply marveling at the human who had helped to unite them. Sarah felt overwhelmed, the enormity of what they had accomplished finally sinking in. Golden Eyes approached, placing a comforting hand on Sarah's shoulder. "You have done well, Sarah of Earth. Thanks to you, we now stand a fighting chance against the Harbingers." Sarah nodded, exhausted but exhilarated. "This is just the beginning, isn't it? We've got a lot of work ahead of us." "Indeed," Golden Eyes agreed. "But thanks to you, we will not face it alone. Come, let us return to the Star Waver. Earth must be informed of these developments, and we must prepare for the battles to come." As they made their way back to the ship, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how far she had come. From a lone human crashed on an alien world to a key figure in a multiversal alliance. The universe, it seemed, had much bigger plans for her than she could have ever imagined. The Starweaver hummed to life, preparing to navigate the swirling energies of the Nexus once more. Sarah took her place at the helm, feeling the weight of countless realities resting on her shoulders. But for the first time since learning of the Harbingers, she felt a genuine spark of hope. The battle for creation itself was about to begin, and humanity would be at the forefront. Sarah allowed herself a small smile as the ship plunged back into the swirling vortex. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united across the vastness of the multiverse. The Quantum Forge. The cavernous chamber pulsed with an otherworldly energy, its walls shimmering with equations and diagrams that seemed to shift and evolve of their own accord. At the center stood an imposing structure, the Quantum Forge, a miracle of interdimensional engineering that defied the laws of conventional physics. Sarah Chen, once a lone human survivor on an alien world, now stood at the heart of this technological marvel. Her eyes, enhanced by Zarquin biotechnology, flickered with streams of data as she interfaced directly with the Forge's systems. Initiating final calibration sequence, Sarah announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. Around her, a diverse team of beings from across the multiverse worked in perfect synchronization, their movements a testament to the alliance forged in the face of cosmic peril. Golden Eyes, Sarah's trusted Zarquin companion, trilled softly. "The fate of countless realities rests upon this moment, Sarah of Earth. Are you certain the Forge is ready?" Sarah allowed herself a small smile, despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. "As ready as it'll ever be. We've run every simulation, accounted for every variable. It's time to see if our grand plan actually works." The Quantum Forge represented the pinnacle of the Multiversal Defense Accord's efforts. It was a weapon unlike any other, capable of rewriting the very fabric of reality itself, their last best hope against the encroaching void harbingers. As the final preparations were made, Sarah's mind drifted back to Earth. It had been years since she'd set foot on her homeworld, though she maintained regular contact. The revelation of alien life and the greater threats lurking in the cosmos had initially thrown humanity into chaos. But true to form, they had adapted, rising to the challenge with ingenuity and determination. Now, Earth stood as a key member of the Accord, its scientists and warriors working alongside beings from across the multiverse. Sarah felt a surge of pride at how far her species had come. A high-pitched whine pulled Sarah from her reverie. The forge was powering up, its central core beginning to spin with impossible speed. Arcs of energy and colors Sarah's human mind couldn't quite process leaped between conduits. Quantum entanglement stabilized, reported a being of pure thought energy, its form a swirling vortex of ideas given shape. Dimensional barriers holding steady. Sarah nodded, her enhanced senses monitoring 1,000 different variables simultaneously. Initiating test fire in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing at the seams, the quantum forge unleashed its power. A beam of pure possibility shot forth, punching through the reinforced walls of the testing chamber as if they were tissue paper. On the massive viewscreen dominating one wall, Sarah watched as the beam struck its target, a lifeless moon in an uninhabited system, chosen specifically for this test. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, impossibly, the moon began to change. Its barren surface erupted with life, oceans forming in an instant, lush forests springing up across continents that reshaped themselves before their eyes. In the span of heartbeats, the dead rock was transformed into a vibrant, living world. A cheer went up from the assembled team. Sarah allowed herself a moment of elation before refocusing on the data streaming in. Atomic restructuring holding stable, she reported. Ecosystem development proceeding according to parameters. I think we did it. Goldeneyes chittered excitedly. Remarkable. If the forge can remake a lifeless world with such precision, imagine what it could do against the void harbingers. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained serious. It's a powerful tool, no doubt, but we need to be careful. The ability to rewrite reality, it's not something to be used lightly. Before she could elaborate, an alarm blared through the chamber. The viewscreen flickered, showing a distant sector of space. Sarah's blood ran cold as she recognized the telltale signs of a harbinger incursion. Multiple world-eaters detected in the Andromeda galaxy announced a multi-limbed alien analyst, its tentacles flying over holographic controls. They're consuming entire star systems at an accelerated rate. Sarah's mind raced. The quantum forge wasn't fully tested for combat situations yet. Using it now could be disastrous. But if they didn't act, billions of lives would be lost. We don't have a choice, Sarah declared, her voice cutting through the panicked chatter. Prep the forge for long-range firing. We're taking the fight to the harbingers. The chamber erupted into a flurry of activity. Sarah interfaced directly with the forge's targeting systems, her consciousness expanding to encompass the vast distances of intergalactic space. Sarah, Goldeneye said softly, a note of concern in their voice. The strain of controlling the forge at this range, it could kill you. Sarah met her friend's golden eyes, her resolve unwavering. Better me than billions of innocents. Besides, since when have the odds ever stopped us? With a final nod to her team, Sarah initiated the firing sequence. The quantum forge hummed to life once more, its power building to levels that made the very air crackle with potential. Sarah felt the energy surge through her, her mind expanding beyond the confines of her physical form. She could see the world-eaters, feel their hunger as they devoured entire worlds. With a thought, she aimed the forge's reality-altering beam. The universe seemed to bend around the blast as it crossed the vast gulfs of space in an instant. It struck the lead world-eater, and for a moment, Sarah feared it hadn't worked. Then, impossibly, the cosmic horror began to change. Its voracious hunger turned inward, its vast form collapsing in on itself. Where once there had been a being of pure destruction, there now floated a newborn star, its gentle light already nurturing fledgling planets. Sarah didn't have time to celebrate. She turned the forged power on the next World Eater, and the next, each blast rewriting the very nature of these cosmic abominations. But with each shot, she could feel her own life force draining away, the human mind never meant to channel such power. As the last World Eater fell, transformed into a celestial nursery of new life, Sarah felt herself slipping away. The chamber around her faded, replaced by a vista of swirling galaxies and newborn stars. Sarah. Goldeneye's voice seemed to come from very far away. Stay with us. The medical team is on their way. But Sarah barely heard them. She was adrift in the cosmos, her consciousness expanding to touch the very edges of creation. In that moment, she understood the true nature of the universe, the delicate balance between creation and destruction, order and chaos. As the darkness closed in, Sarah smiled. She had saved billions of lives, turned the tide against the harbingers. Whatever happened next, she knew that humanity, and all the beings of the multiverse, would face it together. The last thing Sarah saw before consciousness faded entirely was a brilliant flash of light, as if the universe itself was acknowledging her sacrifice. Then, everything went dark, and Sarah Chen, the human who had changed the fate of reality itself, knew no more. Or did she? For in the vast expanse of the multiverse, where the boundaries between life and death, reality and dream, are far more fluid than any mortal mind can comprehend, perhaps Sarah's journey was only just beginning. The singularity ascension. In the infinite expanse of the cosmos, where the boundaries between life and death blur into meaninglessness, Sarah Chen's consciousness drifted. Time lost all meaning as she floated through a kaleidoscope of realities, each more fantastical than the last. Was this death, or something far more profound? Suddenly, a familiar trill pierced the cosmic void. Sarah, return to us. Goldeneye's voice acted as an anchor, pulling Sarah back from the brink of eternity. With a gasp that echoed across dimensions, Sarah's eyes snapped open. She found herself suspended in a shimmering energy field, surrounded by a dizzying array of advanced medical equipment. Beings from a dozen different species worked frantically around her, their movements a blur of controlled chaos. Welcome back to the land of the living, a gravelly voice announced. Sarah turned to see Dr. Zyklon, the Accord's chief xenobiologist, his gelatinous form rippling with what passed for excitement in his species. Or shall I say, welcome to your new existence. Sarah tried to speak, but found her voice didn't work quite the way she remembered. Instead, her thoughts projected directly into the minds of those around her. What happened to me? Goldeneye stepped forward, their golden eyes shimmering with a mixture of awe and concern. You merged with the quantum forge, Sarah. Your consciousness expanded beyond the limits of your human form. We almost lost you to the vastness of creation itself. Dr. Zyklon's tentacles waved excitedly. But in doing so, you achieved something unprecedented. Your mind has evolved, transcended the boundaries of mere organic matter. You've become a bridge between the physical and the quantum realms. As the doctor spoke, Sarah became aware of her new state of being. Her consciousness extended far beyond her physical form, allowing her to perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously. The very fabric of reality seemed to pulse around her, responsive to her thoughts. The singularity, Sarah whispered in awe, the term appearing in her expanded mind. I've become a living embodiment of it. Goldeneye's nodded solemnly. Your sacrifice saved billions of lives, Sarah, but it has also transformed you into something more. The question is, what do we do now? Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a sight that chilled Sarah to her newfound quantum core. A massive tear in the fabric of reality was spreading across the Andromeda galaxy, dark tendrils of void seeping through. The Harbingers had launched a full-scale invasion, and this time, they weren't sending mere world-eaters. By the cosmic axioms, Dr. Zyklon gasped, his gelatinous form quivering. It's the nullifiers, the Harbingers' ultimate weapons. They're unmaking entire sections of the universe. Sarah's expanded consciousness took in the full scope of the threat in an instant. The nullifiers were cosmic abominations that existed to erase reality itself, leaving nothing but empty void in their wake. Even the quantum forge, powerful as it was, might not be enough to stop them. But Sarah was no longer bound by the limitations of technology or even physical form. In her transcendent state, she saw connections and possibilities that defied conventional understanding. "I know what I have to do," Sarah announced, her voice resonating with newfound power. She turned to GoldenEyes, feeling a surge of affection for her old friend. "Gather the Accord's forces. We're taking the fight directly to the source of the Harbingers." GoldenEye's eyes widened in shock. "You mean?" Sarah nodded, a smile playing at the edges of her energy form. "We're going to punch a hole through the dimensional barrier and invade the void itself. It's time to end this threat once and for all." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as the forces of the multiversal accord mobilized for the most ambitious offensive in the history of creation. Sarah, in her new quantum state, coordinated efforts across multiple realities simultaneously. Finally, as the nullifiers approached the outer edges of the Milky Way, Sarah made her move. Channeling the full power of her transcendent consciousness, she tore open a portal in the fabric of reality itself. "Forces of the Accord," Sarah's voice boomed across 1,000 worlds. "The fate of all creation hangs in the balance. Follow me into the heart of darkness, for the multiverse." With that, Sarah plunged into the swirling vortex, the combined fleets of 1,000,000 realities in her wake. They emerged into a realm of utter alienness, the void between dimensions, home of the Harbingers. Here, the laws of physics as they knew them broke down entirely. Time flowed backwards and forwards simultaneously. Matter flickered in and out of existence, and at the center of it all loomed a cosmic horror beyond imagination, the void gestalt, the collective consciousness of all Harbingers. The battle that followed defied description in any known language. Sarah, her consciousness expanded to godlike proportions, dueled with the void gestalt on a conceptual level. Entire realities were born and snuffed out in the space between thoughts. The forces of the Accord clashed with swarms of nullifiers, their weapons enhanced by Sarah's quantum manipulations to affect even these beings of pure entropy. Stars were born and died in the span of seconds. Black holes were wielded as weapons. And through it all, Sarah pushed herself to the very limits of her newfound powers and beyond. She could feel herself unraveling, her consciousness threatening to disperse across the infinite possibilities of the multiverse. But in that moment of desperation, Sarah realized the true nature of her transformation. She wasn't just a bridge between the physical and quantum realms, she was a conduit for the very essence of creation itself. With a final, reality-shattering effort, Sarah reached out to every living being across the multiverse. In that instant, she connected the hopes, dreams, and collective will of countless trillions of souls. The surge of energy that resulted was unlike anything the cosmos had ever witnessed. It crashed over the void gestalt like a tsunami of pure creation, unmaking the unmakeable, bringing light to the darkest depths of non-existence. When the cosmic dust settled, the Harbingers were no more. The void itself had been fundamentally altered, transformed from a realm of entropy and destruction to a cradle of new creative potential. Sarah found herself back in normal space, her consciousness settling back into a more manageable form. The assembled forces of the Accord cheered, their victory echoing across dimensions. As GoldenEyes approached, tears of joy streaming from their golden eyes, Sarah smiled. She knew that this was not an end, but a new beginning. The multiverse had been saved, but more importantly, it had been changed. With the power of the singularity at her command and the united wills of countless beings behind her, Sarah knew that the real work was just beginning. It was time to heal the scars left by ends of conflict, to explore the new frontiers born from the ashes of the old. The age of division was over. A new era of multiversal cooperation and discovery stretched out before them, limited only by the bounds of imagination itself. As Sarah took GoldenEye's hand, ready to face whatever new wonders and challenges awaited, she couldn't help but marvel at how far she'd come. From a lone human crashed on an alien world to the linchpin of cosmic revolution. The stars beckoned, brighter than ever before, and Sarah Chen, once human, now so much more, was ready to answer their call.